Hello and welcome to another episode of Alan Writes. This is number 15, I think. Of the Winter of Truth. Star Wars fan fiction thriller. It's all on the title. Anyway, what we have is the Finara is captured by rebels on the planet of Hoth while she was out doing some examination of a blown up AT-AT. And I really need to do the this scene a little better because it is her forte. Um, she's an engineer. She's a damage analyst. Anyway, um, and she this is her thing. But while she's busy doing it, oh yeah, I need to mention the fact. Yeah, yeah. It's all good. It's all good. No, no. My mind's going places, and I apologize for that. This is the way things go creatively, is you kind of stare off into space and go, "Well, that's very interesting." Did I already include the fact that the legs were harpooned and then was brought down that way, and the angle was so strange? No, she hasn't figured that out quite yet. That it was harpooned first and then blown up the back of the neck. That essentially no armor needs to be added. It's in fact impossible to do so unless you put a canopy. Um, All right, fine. Neck canopy. All right. So anyway, but I needed to flesh out the rebels. We need 3 rebels, and fortunately, online there are various random name generators, and that's a sneaky little thing for writers to do. Is you literally go to a random name generator and you have it spit out some stuff, and you either select what you like, or you modify it slightly and make it yours completely. Either way, these are just random names. For example, I wouldn't use Kuna. Val is too. Core is fine. There's 2 Kunas. Tantalich seems a little weird. Vidar, Danae, okay. And again, these are male and female names, so I don't know that you can really tell the difference, other than the fact that most of the female things have an A on the end of it rather than the males, which is really, well, whatever. Runa's not a bad run, but Kenth Madar. Let's go with that. So we have we're gonna do some character creation here. Kenth Madar. Infantryman, wounded during the opening battle. Battle phase. He was taken to trauma sled and forgotten. Until it was too late. Basically, they just didn't have time to put him on one of the transports. Everyone was fleeing too much because the overwhelming Imperial effort. All right. So, and who is he? Young idealist, fighting for a noble cause. Now he's stuck in pain and cold all the time. He is going through an existential crisis. Or at least a crisis of faith, let's call it that. Then let's have a female counterpart. Laura is too... This entire name is no good. It's too complex, and it's too derivative in turn. Same with here, too complex. This is Star Wars. Let's, I like Arena. Arena Typh. Okay, so who is she? I'm going to have her be a medic. All right, so she's fighting the Empire a long time in her own way. She's a veteran of many engagements, has recently taken up arms instead of merely hyposprays. So she's kind of gone a darker turn. Most medics, don't want to take up weapons, but sometimes they will. In the Pacific Theater of Operations, for example, GI medics quickly learned that putting a red cross on their helmet or their arm just made them a target for snipers. And, well, they often had to arm themselves because again, that was the nature of the wars. It wasn't discriminating. The enemy didn't really care if you had a weapon or not. That was that was their way of waging war. So, as recent, she's not bitter, but is resigned to her fate. This is her life now. And I'm plucking that from somebody else's story, but that's fine because she's overall depressed and dejected, but willing to move on with her job because you've got to keep moving forward. You've got to keep fighting the good fight, even though you don't see it. She too is having trouble with things in a different way, admittedly. This is her life now. So what about the past? Former pacifist. All right. I need one more. I need a. And let's go. I'm gonna flip a mental coin here and go with. Yeah. I'm gonna go with another female rebel. Do we have Finara? Now, do I want to make them sisters? That's an interesting thing. Well, we'll do that. Finara type. Pilot. Sister to Iran, and Inara. They're different enough, but similar enough, and I think that will sister to young and full of fight, wants to take on the Empire. Lost her love, Dak, in the Hoth fighting, and now is interested in revenge. No revenge. But the enemy is too powerful. Alright, I realize I am only at 100%. There we go. Put that up. I've got to remember to do certain things when I do these episodes. Sometimes I just want to jump right in and forget the prep work. If you haven't noticed that before, that's the way I am. Alright, but the enemy is too powerful, and she has to pick her fights. Damn it. Learning caution and hating it. Okay. Alright, so we have somebody who's trying to forget the past, someone who's in the present, and someone who's looking to the future. That's a good spread of character, I think. We can do a lot with that. I won't say it's ideal, but again, this is the first draft, and we'll see where it goes from here. Alright, Muffled voices. Cold. Seeping in. Her hands wouldn't work. Finara opened her eyes. Opened her eyes to find gray plasteel. Whatever it's called. Durasteel. Durasteel. And pale white Durasteel for her. And a length of curved pale white Durasteel before her. A hall. She was in a speeder. She turned, she shifted about to look. Okay, and found civilian speeder. Found a cockpit. Found she was in the back of the kind that usually went and got groceries, though this one had been extensively refitted. Judging from the bundled wires and what else? And torn out seats. Not made for speed. They increased the injectors. Made for maneuver. They'd added additional spoilers. They'd added a spoiler. They added an air dam. An air dam. Up forward, along with linked blasters. Light blasters. The craft didn't have enough of a power plant to run a souped up engine and recharge the blast capacitor. And recharge the and run the and recharge of anything heavier. Probably an infantry support vehicle. She looked leftward and found slots for rifles and clips for gear bags, for packs. Not a lot on those. Not a lot on those either. The voices finally cleared up. Her ears still ringing from the stun blast. Two women and a man arguing about the captive. All right, she was a hostage of the rebels. Would it come to torture? She asked herself. Can I take it? For how long? Long enough to be rescued? Sooner or later, Lorna would report my absence. That was even assuming they hadn't caught assuming that one of the observation posts hadn't caught the abduction. On sensors. Okay. Yeah. Trade her? For what? A woman asked. Finara, this was foolish. We can't keep her. It'll do no good. You're not listening. And I'm going to use the other woman's name. Iranan. The other woman asked. The other woman said, "You're not listening, Iranan." Her voice peaked. Her voice sounding almost like a whine. Her voice sounding almost with a whine. The other woman said, almost with a whine. She was out there, alone, doing, what was it, Kenneth? Engineer stuff. The man said. A man's voice said. Engineer stuff. She had packs and stuff filled with that stuff. And her speeder was salvaged. And her speeder was all fixed up. And her speeder was the moth and furball, but all fixed up. Okay, so I've now given a name to the speeder that she had. Fine. And engineer. Alright, said. And Finara could hear the exasperation in her voice. But that doesn't change anything. We can't swap her for fuel cells. The Empire doesn't do that. How do you know? Yeah, they do. Inara replied. There was something with her voice. Let me shut off my my alarm there, telling me that I've got a meeting with a colleague online, of course, because he's in the Netherlands. So I'm obviously not going to go there. Yeah, they do. There was something, the way the two spoke, very similar, but with a sisterly tinge. If the is high value, the Empire will pay up. All we need are a few fuel cells. All we need are a few fuel cells. We're not going to get them. There's no way on this ice ball world that she's valuable enough to have been. She was operating alone, without escort, and without in one of our refitted speeders. Run. Kent? A shadow crossed the open. I didn't indicate that it was open. Yeah, all right, fine. Hall and torn out seats. The door, door was wide open, and cold air trickled in. Just finally cleared up. Her ears were still ringing across the opening. Finara went to limp, trying to pretend to be unconscious. Trying to pretend to still be unconscious. There was a low chuckle that arose. Is she all right? Inara asked. She's just faking. Kent said. And Finara felt him prod her foot. She opened her eyes back up to find a big man, clean shaven. No, not clean shaven. Oh man, big man. Big man. A tall, thin man with a stubble of beard, staring over at her, and over from the sights of a blaster rifle. His gaze was as steely as the hall. Steely as the hall. Okay. Yes, I know Google Documents does not like me to use these words. Sometimes it's correct and sometimes it's not. Get out. I also need to indicate that she reached out and found her hands were clasped in crude binders. Just twisted metal with a simple lock. With a physical lock. Hostage of the rebels. All right. She was wrong. She was wrong. The Empire cared about its people. Enough to make bargains when they could trust the other side. But rebels weren't. But rebels weren't to be trusted. Also, this lock was crap. With a stiff piece of wire, she knew she could spring the lock. Lots of wire around, too, and she selected a length and shoved it up her sleeve. Get out, he said. Stern, that brooked no delay. Finara, pulse quickened, as fear tried to undo all that she was. Death loomed. Everyone knew that rebels took only two kinds of prisoners: the valuable and the dead. This is, of course, incorrect, but whatever. It's also true in some parts of the rebellion, because, there's different flavors of rebellion. The valuable and the dead. She stepped out of the speeder and found that they were all in a cavern of some kind. Snow cavern. Packed ice for walls. A solitary space heater sat atop a metal pad, providing both light and just enough heat to remove the numbing cold. A whole lot of gear lay strewn about. Then pieces, mostly civilian, but some from militia forces and even imperial, even some imperial designs. Okay, mind you, they're stuck because they don't have an engineer sufficient caliber to fix their emergency shuttle. Because, they probably do have an emergency shuttle somewhere, but the cold has done a number. Things just don't work. It's too slow. Too slow. Engine all screwed up. Won't make orbit before the ties track them. Before the ties run it down. Okay. So that's what they're looking for. They're rebels looking to get off planet. But there you go. Okay. We're coming up on our time, and even some Imperial designs. Then she saw the two women. The tall man. Short brown hair, close cropped. Like has you ever seen a trooper? Like a trooper would have. Trooper would have. Short hair, bristling where had once been close cropped. It's always a question of how much description you want to add into this to begin with. He wore layers coats, 3 at least, and there were blast holes in at least 2 of those. The holes, the charred holes, shifting one atop, one over the other. All right, it's much easier writing for the screen where you're just like, the character is like this. This is my intention. Eventually, somebody's going to have to come up with the way they look, etc., etc., etc. All right. Then she saw the 2 women. Sisters for certain. Uh, Now you're saying, I don't have any aliens in here. That is correct. I may have to go through and make, Kenneth an alien of some sort. That would be one way to do it. But right now, most of the characters are human, just because that's the easiest and that's kind of the default. But again, whatever you put them in, it's you've got to make room for future developments as on your second draft. Sisters, for example, blonde and blonde hair, the same color as an early dawn. Blonde hair, the same color. Blonde hair, the same color as an early dawn. As well, no. What would she say? Dark hair, the same color as the night sky. Like the night sky. Same cheekbones, though they dress differently. The younger one in piloting pilot togs with emergency gear, and the older one with an Imperial trauma kit on her hip. There we go. Neither one had either pity or remorse in their dark-eyed gaze. All right, so she's been captured, and here we've introduced our rebels. We're going to find that she's going to refuse to help? Is she going to help with conditions? Is she going to, obviously do a thing of it? Kent grabbed her wrist and pulled her forward. He chuckled as he extracted a length of stiff wire from her sleeve. Next time, put it somewhere it can't be seen. He said, as if this was all just a hollow play. All right, so we're busy. No sneer, though. Give him that. So we're busy marking out who people are and their personality types as much as a thumbnail can give us, because this real story isn't about these three rebels who have been trapped on Hoth. It's about Finara and her journey down to... Now she gets a chance to know the enemy and figure out a little bit about them and realize that some of the propaganda that she's been told is simply untrue. And when she starts to question one thing, she may start to question another. Where that will lead her, of course, is another thing. Perhaps she sees the value in the propaganda, and because, common people don't need to know all the twists and turns. How would they ever sort them out? They just want to get on with their lives, etc., etc., etc. Whatever justification she can make. It's one possibility, certain for her. Because we're dealing with a very much an imperial girl, and you just don't drop those assumptions because you've had a brush with something or another. You really have to have your bell rung in order for you to shift things. It has to be personal. And there has to be consequences, and there has to be impact. And this is the way it usually is for people who believe one thing and then are meant to be able to live another. You can do that with Sandy Hook conspiracy theorists, who to this day believe in insane and nonsensical things, um, even though they're shown what's going on. Although there's one exception to that, a man who came around and realized he was being a colossal dick and apologized. But he's the rarity. He's the exception. He's the 10%, whereas the other 90% are busy pursuing their pleasure because it's far more enjoyable to believe propaganda than not. For some people, anyway. All right, we're going to leave it off here. This has been Alan Wright's The Winter of Truth. I hope you've enjoyed this little carving out. We finally got a chance to meet the rebels, and it'll be good times next time as we get into some intense character development and association, because now we're just not dealing with people in her way wanting to push her aside from her for whatever reason, or even be helpful. And being helpful can be kind of boring sometimes. These are rebels. They want to get off the planet. They would be willing to kill her if push came to shove. They were certainly willing to abduct her. So we'll see where we go from here. But in the meantime, until next time, take care and stay safe. Thanks.